Good day. Welcome to Orange County Talk Radio. I'm John Marino, and we are produced by Sharc Creative, made possible by Robeson Oil, the house that Service built. By Lipolis Electric, don't be left in the dark. Get Lipolis. By Hightower Westchester, managing your wealth to a fiduciary standard. By White Plains Hospital, by Michael Labriola Landscape Design and Construction, and by Tompkins Mayor Pac Bank. Here we are on the Cup of Joe political show. And we are joined by the mayor, the long-serving mayor of the city of Middletown, Joseph DeStefano. Mayor DeStefano, welcome to Orange County Talk Radio. And I have to ask you off the bat, how many years have you been in office now?
Well, since 1984, with the exception of 4. But the first 10 years was as a city councilman, and since 1994 as mayor. A mix of 2-year and 4-year terms. We changed to 4-year terms in around 2005, 2006, somewhere around there.
Does it matter to you, 2 years, 4 years? What's the difference between the two?
Actually, I like the fact that the myself and the other citywide candidate, the alderman at large, we both run for 4-year terms, whereas the council members run for 2-year terms. So it sort of offsets on the political side. Gives each side a little juice that when they're running, if I don't like one of them, I can campaign against them. If they don't like me, I can do the same. So it gives like a little balance, almost like Senate and House and their presidents. And you know, it's just it's good not to be running all at once at the every term.
If you're in a 2-year situation, regardless of what the office is, does that put more pressure on you to get things done? You have to show more right away to the constituents?
Well, I know that's the general thought on that issue, but I think I find that in the executive side or on the citywide side, that it sort of delays things a little bit because everyone's looking for the next election. I like the 4-year term. It gives us an opportunity to develop concepts. You know, government's wheels do move slowly, and as they should in many cases. We're not the private sector, although some will tout the fact that, you know, we're pro-business. I operate government like a business. Well, it's not a business. You know, there are things. If government was a business, you wouldn't have parks, you wouldn't have senior programs. Those are all things that are revenue negative. They don't generate revenue, but they have the other benefits to them, the quality of life in your community.
Is it a combination of business and nonprofit in a way? Yeah,
exactly. And a provider of service and advocate for people. So there are many roles you play in government, especially local government, because no matter where you go, you're not confronted, but you're approached by people that have concerns and issues. So you can be at the supermarket, or you can be at the, anywhere in town, walking down the streets, and you get inquiries. I welcome it. I don't mind the exchange with people. I think it's healthy that people have access to their government, and I believe we're doing a pretty good job at it.
Even if you change your hairstyle, they know who you are, right?
Yeah, but I'm losing some, and I see you have the same problem.
Yeah. So. I've been told it doesn't matter what you do, John. If you put a wig on, we're still going to know it's you.
So as we get older, I'm in my 60s now, so I know I share your concern there.
All right. Mayor Joe DeStefano, mayor of the city of Middletown, here on Orange County Talk Radio. I'm John Marino. We are produced by Sharc Creative. Mayor, we are in the COVID era, of course. Have you had, I'm not going to say any kind of similar challenges, because I guess in the last 30 years or so, and dating back to the mid-'80s, 85, 84, 85, so we're talking 37 years, you've been around City Hall in Middletown. I don't think there's anything, I guess, that's come close to dealing with COVID, but what have been your other major challenges on both levels, City Council and in the office you're in now as mayor for all these years, with a gap in there of 4 years since 94? What have been the major challenges since then?
Well, the major challenge on local government is the basically resources, finances. They're not infinite, especially now with the tax cap. You know, you want to do as much as possible, but you're limited unless you have a access to outside revenue. In our case, a lot of our downtown renovations were financed and through the Governor Cuomo's grant of $10 million, the competition that we won 5 years ago. So everyone has big plans coming in, but big plans and small pocketbooks is what we have. So we have to be able to raise and generate funds and leverage that money with other federal and state programs and access capital, because I think everyone wants to do the right thing. And usually on the local government, we can agree what the right thing is. It's just accessing that money. And with the tax cap being 2%, and we've met it 9 years in a row, you're limited to, and in a way it's very good, because you could really go off your rocker here spending money in local government. It's not hard to do.
Where I see you're being buzzed right now too.
Yeah, I just hung up the phone.
Yeah, I can. I guess the fun never stops, as they say, right? Yeah,
true.
Where are you with COVID? With COVID a response right now, where is the city of Middletown at?
Well, we're a working class city. Our residents are middle class primarily, and we work in the nursing homes, the hospitals, the supermarkets, and so we've had high numbers. We've had high compliance with mask mandates. I put in a local mask mandate during the height of COVID, but we still have had high numbers. And unfortunately, we also have had a low vaccination rate in the city. So much so that the CDC has come in and they've been going door to door. Myself, I'm an advocate of the mask mandate for schools, and we have it for city employees when dealing with the public. I wish the state or the federal government would do more in that area with more mandates. Just flabbergasted by the fact that people don't get the vaccine, that they could say that it's a fraud, that it's it's some kind of government conspiracy, or the injection of this thing into their body that they don't want. But during a pandemic, you don't have a choice, in my book, that I think at some point we're going to come to the point where vaccines are going to be mandated for certain employment within government. I've informed all three of our unions that if that opportunity comes from the state or federal government to allow us to mandate vaccines for employees, that I'm going to do it. And then the choice would be theirs then at that point, whether to get vaccinated or leave their position. That's how strong I feel about the issue.
When the CDC goes door to door, if they knocked on, say, my door, for example, and they found I'm not vaccinated, which I am and have been since early on, but if I weren't vaccinated, how would they try to cajole me into going out to getting that vaccine?
Well, I wasn't with them, but it was more or less educational, trying to convince people that it's in their best interest and in the community's best interest or in their family's best interest. That's some of the feedback I did have from people. Some of it was positive. Some people did go out. I don't know what the numbers were, but some people did give some feedback saying that as a result of that communication, whether volunteer or whoever it was, that they did go out and choose to get the vaccine. So that's a good thing.
Mm-hmm. I talk to people up and down the Hudson Valley about how businesses have fared in their particular region or locale throughout the pandemic. And we seem to reach a point where things were rolling finally in the right direction 2 months ago. Now I'm getting more of, well, there are ups and downs, John, and sometimes we're in a down, and right now we might be in a down period, but hopefully we go back up soon. In Middletown, businesses, how have they responded? How have they played a role in pandemic recovery?
Well, a lot of our businesses are service-oriented, whether it's supermarkets or restaurants in our downtown and throughout our community. So we've had the same effect. It's been up and down. We've also had some new businesses open downtown, which I was surprised. We had about 10 or 12 new businesses open, not service-related, but some retail and that type of business. But for the most part, it's been difficult, and it's been difficult for two reasons. One, COVID, and two, lack of employees. And even the businesses that have reopened have opened on limited hours, and because there's not enough people to work. And, there's many reasons for that. People have their own theories about whether it was the extra unemployment or whether people are just fearful of going back to work. I guess we'll find out soon whether it was the unemployment, because that ends at the end of August or September. But the lack of workers is, of course, a concern. And we experienced it here in the city. We have 3 public pools. We were only able to open 1 this year because we didn't have enough lifeguards. And usually we have an abundance of lifeguards. So I don't know what the reasons are, but businesses are struggling. And but when the COVID appeared to be going away, there was a strong comeback. But now it's tilting the other way again. So I'm concerned. I'm concerned about it. I'm concerned whether the federal government will come in with another bailout of small business. I know they'll do it for big business, but whether they do it for small business again will be another question. And I guess that depends on how bad we get in regards to closing down the operations.
How much has federal stimulus money trickled down into Middletown? And I know the money comes to the state and it's all earmarked for this, that, the other thing. And yet, I guess you have to have some leeway as to how that money is used, because only you know locally what goes on, what you need in Middletown. Albany has an idea about that, but they may not know totally.
Well, there were several programs. One is a reimbursement of expenses, and that was primarily through FEMA, through a state agency. And we've had some success in recouping some expenses such as overtime, police overtime, and supplies that we purchased. So we did have some success there. The other is the ARPA funding, which is the big block of money that's coming to municipalities throughout the country. Middletown will receive about $11.3 million. And we've received half of it this year, half next year. The spending has to be directed towards COVID-related or issues that will offset some of the, for example, steam cleaners in parks we're doing. We've purchased them. Upgrades to filtration systems in some of our buildings. We're doing a big project with the old O&W station so that we cut down on busing for the migrant Head Start program. So that money will go a long way. It's targeted money. It's not allowed to go into your budget to be refunded to taxpayers or to increase salaries. But the overall, I think the federal response both to government and to the private sector with the PPP program and the EIDL program, the grants, has been adequate. It has kept quite a few businesses afloat. That's why I'm concerned about another round, whether with all the spending going on the federal level now, whether that money is going to be there for another massive shutdown of businesses.
Are you worried that at some point the feds might say, we spent all this money the last 18 months, when is enough enough? And we see some people from around the country who do believe that.
I'd rather see the feds go towards a mandate on the vaccine or prohibit people from getting on planes, public transportation, buses, trains, and public assemblies. So that's my viewpoint on it. I know it has a lot of pushback from some, but we all have opinions.
Mayor Joseph DeStefano, City of Middletown, Orange County Talk Radio. I'm John Marino. We are produced by Sharc Creative. Here we are in the middle of August, and we have the school year coming up in Middletown. Everybody gearing up. The Middletown Bears athletic teams are gearing up for football and soccer, etc. in the fall. Do you see schools being fully reopened in September at this moment as we speak here on Friday, August the 13th?
I see them opening with a mask mandate for indoor. From what I read yesterday or last night regarding athletics, there are some guidance coming down from Albany regarding your local situation, your infection rate, and so on whether certain close contact sports should be allowed. I'm one of those who believe each district should have guidelines and then adopt it based on those statistics that are available to them. But I am a supporter of the mask mandate. I have a 7-year-old grandson. I would hope that if there's no mask mandate in place, my advice to my daughter and her husband would be not to send your child to school. But again, that's personal preference. I've advised the school board president that if they do go to mask mandate, that I would be supportive publicly and stand with them in support of it.
I have parents who say to me, John, if I keep my kids home, well, what am I supposed to do? I mean, I may not be able to work, or I might have to go find a job that allows me more time at home, and I need the money. We need the money. So, John, unless you have some other solution, what should I do?
Well, that's the predicament everyone's in. And that's why they should be encouraging people to get vaccination, the community immunity, and, all those things that we thought this thing was over in July. And the fact that so many people refuse to get vaccinated, it's not going away, and it's going to keep this cycle up. So, as I said, the school board will have to make that decision. I don't vote on it, but if I was a voting member, I would vote to mandate masks in schools.
Latest advice, guidance you've seen from government medical officials locally and above. Do you think we'll need booster shots from what you hear, or might some need booster shots, and might we need another shot again in 2022 before we really have the right immunity in our bodies to finally be able to fight COVID off, we hope?
Well, it appears they're already starting with some boosters for certain populations, those who have some pre-existing conditions that are challenging. So yes, I do see it coming, and if they offered me a booster today, I had my shot in February, I would take it.
Me too. I would. Middletown is a city. It's a city in the Hudson Valley, and some cities in the Hudson Valley have their challenges with gangs, violence, etc., crime. The city of Middletown, do you experience the same kind of things that you might see in some other towns around the region up and down the Hudson River?
Sure. I don't think it's limited to cities. I think it's limited to areas where there's high population. You have some towns in Orange County, New Windsor, town of Newburgh, town of Wallkill, that have similar problems, have city problems, but we all have the experience some of the gang activity. We work closely with the regional task force in regards to that. Our biggest problem right now is youth violence and young people with guns, 14, 15, 16-year-olds shooting at each other with guns. And I'm talking about a couple of incidents recently. I think the bail reform has to be take another look at bail reform. It's causing some problems for communities such as ours. We've been talking to Senator Martucci and Assemblywoman Gunther about some possible changes. Hopefully they'll have something to announce in another month or so. But the criminal justice system is broken. It's the mental health system is broken. We are not going to have a new governor. We're going to get another shot at it. So hopefully there'll be some changes made. And I hope they look at it where they separate big cities that control their own little world. New York City controls the prosecutors, the jails, the whole system is controlled by city government. Whereas up here, local police are one thing, then you have the county district attorney is another, and there's different priorities. And what's important to maybe a small town like Middletown might not be important to Goshen. So we would like to see some changes in the law, and we're working through them to bring it about. But we do have problems. We do have our lowest crime, though, in many, many years. The trend has been going down. We never look at 1 year. We always look at the 5-year trend to see if it's a wave. If it's a wave moving that way, then fine. We'd rather look at that than spikes in increase or spikes in decrease in the crime issue. But we do spend a lot of money in that area. We have about 70 sworn police officers, much less than Newburgh and Poughkeepsie, but they do a good job. They're committed to their jobs, and they're doing a good job protecting our residents.
How do we get guns off the streets?
Boy, that's the universal question in the United States of America. Again, I can only give my personal opinion. I think the New York has tough gun laws now. I believe that minimum sentencing on gun crimes, rather than releasing people on bail and then letting them plead down a case, is probably the answer. We're arresting some of the same people we've arrested before with guns. And we see them being arrested in other communities also. So I think once you commit a crime, and depending on the severity of the crime, with a gun or with a weapon, even maybe a knife, that sentencing should be much more severe than what's happening now or what the courts allow now.
How closely does the city of Middletown coordinate with other cities of the same relative size around the Hudson Valley in Dutchess County and Westchester, et cetera?
Sure. From Westchester to Hudson, we were having weekly Zoom meetings. It was coordinated by Pattern for Progress, a local think tank in Orange County, or located for the Hudson Valley, or lower Hudson Valley. So we have a good relationship with all of the mayors in that group. That goes from Port Jervis, from Kelly Decker over in Port Jervis to Rob Rollison up in Poughkeepsie. So we share stories, we share potential solutions, we talk about how we're addressing specific things in our community, and we try to share information as much as possible. So we do have a good relationship. That weekly meeting now has been put off with COVID subsiding. It was put off to monthly, and but we're still pretty active, and we stay in communication with each other.
Middletown Mayor Joe DeStefano, your thoughts on Governor Andrew Cuomo has announced resignation a few days ago. Were you caught by surprise the way he kind of just woke up and said, "Okay, I quit"?
I was. The allegations are serious. The findings by the Attorney General were disturbing. The governor still has said that he didn't do what he's being charged with, but that in the interest of the state and of his family, that he was going to step down. Besides that, I believe he will probably fight it outside of the system. But whether he did it in his own best interest or in the interest of the state, I don't know. But he did what people were calling for him to do, and that was a step down. We have a good relationship with Lieutenant Governor Hochul, soon to be Governor Hochul. The governor has a right, Governor Cuomo has a right to defend himself, obviously. But what we have seen so far is disturbing, and hopefully at some point we'll get to the bottom of it. The only way you get to the bottom of something, Matt, is either through admissions or through a court process. So I assume that there's going to be something happening, whether it's an impeachment or something in the criminal courts.
Do you think the governor should have just stepped away on that day he made the announcement, or is a 2-week clearing out period, a 2-week notice period, okay from the standpoint of that maybe he does need to work with Lieutenant Governor Hochul on the transition and clean things up as best as possible?
Well, I from what I've heard, and usually that's what you do, you step down. But from what I've heard is that there are several members of the administration, the higher up people in the administration, that are also named in the report, and that they need that 2 weeks in order to not only the governor stepping down, but to replace the internal machine of all people who were identified in the report. So from that perspective, it sort of makes sense that you can't wipe out the whole upper level administration and not have government function. So
have you heard anything about who the next lieutenant governor might be?
I have.
Everything that's gone on this week, we never hear a word about that, who it might be.
I tell you, it's not me.
Could be.
No, it's not me.
Okay. All right. You're saying that right
it's
here.
It's not John Marino either.
Not me. No. Somebody said to me the other day in another show I was on in Westchester, "Hey, what about you running for office?" And I was approached years ago, back in the 90s, when I was at the old WFAS in White Plains. I said, doing this, I get enough people mad at me.
Yeah.
If I were in office, that would magnify to an extent where you might not be able to go in the ShopRite, for example.
Yeah, that's true.
The kind of things, like you pointed out, you deal with sometimes. Yeah. As we head towards the final portion of 2021, you look at 2022, and I know you're doing that right now. budgetarily, is there something, or maybe more than one thing, that might be in the next budget that's not there right now, or something that should be there that's not there right now?
Well, one issue that, and I don't know how it is in the lower, right, like in Westchester, Rockland area, but up in Orange, we have an ambulance crisis, an ambulance coverage crisis. And the ambulance industry is looking for subsidies from local government to have primary coverage in their community. We've had a contract with Mobile Life, for example, for many, many years. They're the primary provider. When you call 911, they respond. They are the responding agency. There is also a mutual aid process within the ambulance service also, but on our contract, they were required to have 2 ambulances available at all times within the city limits. They are now asking for that service to be subsidized, and the amount of money projected is significant money. And so we'll have to make a decision whether to go into just the countywide system, which in some cases is taking a half hour to 45 minutes because of the lack of ambulances and the lack of personnel, or do something different. So we're bouncing that around right now, or subsidize Mobile Life to a large number. So that to me is going to be one of the biggest impacts on our 2022 budget. But more importantly, it's also going to affect, the public safety in our community. So
you would think during this COVID era, this would be at the top of the list, making sure you have enough ambulances to transport people when need be.
Yep. And I'm surprised that it's not approached on a countywide level, because we have a mix of volunteer and paid ambulance services in the county. And it appears that most communities are suffering from slow response because of the COVID and the Medicaid and the government reimbursements, insurance reimbursements for ambulance service. So it's a big problem, and I predict it's going to be a bigger problem in 2022.
Mayor Joe DeStefano, City of Middletown, we thank you for joining us here on Orange County Talk Radio. All the best. Look forward to our next conversation, hopefully not too far down the line.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Thanks for the time.
Thank you. Mayor Joe DeStefano, City of Middletown, here on Orange County Talk Radio, produced by Sharc Creative. We are made possible by Robeson Oil, the house that Service built, and by Lipolis Electric. Don't be left in the dark. Get Lipolis by Hightower Westchester, managing your wealth to a fiduciary standard. Also by White Plains Hospital, by Michael Labriola Landscape Design and Construction of Armonk, and by Tompkins Mahopac Bank. Catch all of our Orange, Dutchess, Putnam, Rockland, Westchester, and Fairfield County Talk Radio programming on our YouTube channel, Sharc Creative YouTube.